This is your warning to never be friends with a bilingual person. Because I have a friend that speaks English and Spanish, but his parents are from Mexico, so they don't know any English. So when I met them for the first time, it was a nightmare because my friend likes to troll a lot, but he had to be the translator for me to communicate with his parents since he was the only one who knew both languages. So when we talked, he would purposely mistranslate what I said to his parents because he thought it was funny. Like I was in the car with his whole family and his mom asked what type of music I listened to. So I told her that I mostly listen to rap and R&B. But when I said this, my friend starts chuckling when he's trying to relay the message to his parents. But then I understood it because when he spoke Spanish back to his parents, I only recognized one of the words he said, which was Diddy. He told his parents that I like to listen to Diddy. So from there on out, I just started using my phone to translate what they said. Never make eye contact with someone who has a lazy eye. Because the other day, I was at the airport and someone right behind me goes, "Excuse me." So I turn around and look at them, but right away, I noticed they had a lazy eye, so I couldn't tell if they were looking at me or not. But when I looked back at them, they said, "Do you like that jacket?" But this is where I messed up because they had headphones in and I wasn't wearing a jacket at the time. So since one of his eyes wasn't looking at me, I just assumed he was on the phone and I turned back around. But when I did that, he went, that was rude. So I turned to look at him again, but he still looked like he wasn't talking to me because of his lazy eye. So finally I just go, "Eh?" And he nods his head yes. So that was when I realized he was talking about the jacket I had on in my screensaver. So I apologized, but I didn't know what else to say because I couldn't just be like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I couldn't tell you were talking to me because of your lazy eye." I should have just pretended to be deaf. Why do I look so different in pictures compared to real life? Because I don't think I'm bad looking, but when someone takes a picture of me, I'll look at it and be like, "Oh, I thought you were taking a photo of me. Not Jabba the Hutt." But it makes no sense because I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, okay, this is what I look like. But if I don't move and take a picture in that exact same spot, I don't recognize myself. And the worst part is, if my friend takes a picture of me and I say how I look ugly in it and it doesn't look anything like me, they'll be like, "What do you mean? That's what you always look like." What? You're telling me my face always looks like something a third grader would draw with their non-dominant hand? That doesn't make me feel better. And for some reason, I look completely different in all the app's cameras. So I know it's not just my brain playing tricks on me. I just don't know which app shows the real me in the camera. For all you guys know, I don't even look like this in real life. Nobody talks about how Gen Z has a secret way of communicating. Because the other day, I texted my friend, but they got a new phone, so they didn't recognize my number. But when I told them who I was, they were like, "I would have never guessed it was you based off the way you talk." So I asked what they meant by that, and they told me that I communicate like an old person, not someone in Gen Z. I didn't know what that meant, so I made him explain what exactly talking like a Gen Z person looks like. And he told me almost everyone in our generation never capitalizes the first letter of a sentence. But I do, so that's why he thought I was old. The worst part was he made fun of me for it, saying it looks dumb how I text. But like, dog, you're laughing at me because I use correct grammar? There's no way I'm the one getting cooked. So I asked him why everyone in our generation does this, and he was like, "It just looks better." Since when do you care how good your text message looks? This ain't the Declaration of Independence. I don't care if it looks pretty. Never double text someone you have a crush on, because I used to do this all the time until one day. I was texting this girl I liked, and she told me she was going to the mountains for the weekend. So while she was up there, I texted her asking how it was going, but she didn't respond. So about 10 hours later, I text again thinking that she probably just didn't have cell service and couldn't see the first text. Then I go to bed, but when I wake up in the morning, there's still no response. So I check her Snap score to see if it's gone up since the last time she responded to me. It's not weird, everyone does it. But anyways, it did go up. So I knew she had service, and I was just like, well, let's just try texting her one more time just in case she didn't see the first two. But you know what happens right when I send the text? My messages go from being blue to green. You know why? She blocked me. This was so embarrassing though, because I could just imagine her reaction after I sent the third text being like, "Damn, another text? This guy won't shut up." But I learned my lesson that day. Now, I don't talk to women at all. Why is it so hard to date in Gen Z? Like, I'm pretty sure everyone in this generation is gonna end up alone. Because there was this girl that would like my story every time I posted, but in real life, she would never talk to me. So eventually, one of her friends came up to me and was like, "Dude, why don't you talk to Sarah?" So I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "You know Sarah likes you, right? She's been trying to flirt with you for a while now." And I was like, "No, she never even talks to me." But then her friend was like, "Yeah, but she always likes your stories." So that's how people flirt now? I just figured she thought the memes I reposted were funny. Like, how am I supposed to know that's flirting? But I understand why no one wants to talk normally to the people they like in this generation, because if you do, odds are that what you say is just gonna end up in a screenshot that the whole school will see, and then they'll make fun of you for it. Am I speaking from experience? That's not important. If you ever need an excuse to skip school, do not say you have to go to a funeral. Because one time, I was going on vacation with my family, so I was gonna miss some school. But I needed an excuse to tell my teacher to not get in trouble, and I decided to tell her that I was going to my grandma's funeral. But I really didn't want her to question it, so I made it super dramatic, and I was like, "Yeah, this is the last grandma I had." But I really shouldn't have said this, because the teacher told me to take as much time off as I need. So a couple months later, the end of the school year came around, and this was my last year of elementary school, so we had like a graduation event for everyone that was gonna be moving on to middle school. But guess who came to this event? My grandma. And I totally forgot that I told my teacher she passed away. So when the event ended, my teacher came to say goodbye and she started talking to my whole family, including my grandma. So when my grandma introduced herself, my teacher looked as if she saw a ghost, because she probably thought she did. Once I realized why she had that look on her face, I was like, okay, time to go. I'm just glad I never had to go back. Never buy shoes off Temu, because I was in class the other day and this kid walks in with a brand new pair of shoes, but they looked a little bit weird, so I knew right away that he got them off Temu because that man shops on that website like it's Black Friday every day. So anyways, he's wearing these shoes and we had a test that day, so the whole class was completely silent. Like if you talk, the teacher's gonna fail you. So while everyone is taking the test, a song randomly starts playing out of what sounds like a really low quality speaker. And everyone starts looking around trying to find where it's coming from, but then I look at the Temu kid's shoes and they're flashing red, matching the sound of the beat. You know why? Because the song was coming from his shoes. The shoes had speakers in them. Apparently the shoe can play like 3 songs and he accidentally tapped the button that starts it. So he immediately pressed the button again, trying to turn the song off as fast as he could. But why would you wear your Temu shoes to school in the first place? Did anyone else have a friend growing up that your parents trusted, even though they shouldn't have? Like my parents would let me go anywhere when I was younger, as long as my friend Jaden was coming. Because he was really good at talking to adults, so they thought he was the most responsible, respectful kid ever. Like when he came over, he would always shake their hands and be super mature, so my parents just figured that he was a good kid for their son to be around. But what they didn't know is how he acted when adults weren't around, because the moment we would leave, he would turn crazy. Like when Jaden's pet fish passed away, instead of burying it or flushing it down the toilet like a normal person, he filled the fish bowl with Coke and Mentos, which made the deceased fish shoot up into the air. It literally flew like 15 feet and then splattered onto the ground. I didn't know whether to be terrified or amazed by what I just saw, but this was like normal for him. He would do things like this all the time. But the moment that adults came around, he turned on that parents' riz. This is your warning to never compliment a pregnant lady. Because I was at the doctor's office the other day, but right as I arrived in the waiting room, all of the seats were taken except for this one next to this lady who looked really pregnant. So I asked her if anyone was sitting in it and she said no, so I sat down. But this led to her making small talk with me and she complimented my outfit, so I wanted to give her a compliment back. And since she was very pregnant looking, I said, thanks. You make pregnancy look easy with how much energy you've got. But right when I said that, her face dropped and she went, I'm not pregnant. So I immediately turned red and I'm like, yeah, of course you're not. I don't know what I was thinking. But as I'm rambling, trying to apologize, she goes, I'm just kidding. I love telling people I'm not pregnant when they bring it up just to see their reaction. That's not cool. I'm pretty sure she almost made me go into labor. You can always tell when someone is a middle child because they do not get treated like everyone else. Because one time I was at an amusement park with 5 other people and one of them was a middle child. So during this whole day, we were going on different rides, but it was super crowded there. So about 3 hours into being there, we realized we lost our middle child friend. So I was like, wait, guys, has anyone seen Cole? But no one had, so we figured he just went to the bathroom or something without telling us. So we called him to tell him where we were at, and he finally met back up with us. But we asked him what happened, and he told us he got separated from us right when we entered the park. So we were like, you got separated from us 3 hours ago and didn't try to call to find us? And he was like, nah, I'm used to people losing track of me. It happens all the time at home, so I just wandered off and went on some roller coasters by myself. I felt horrible for that, but honestly, I respect middle children a lot. They're way less needy than us younger siblings. Why do best friends never take pictures together? Because I was talking to this girl the other day and I was telling her about my friend because I thought they would like each other. But then she said, oh, well, do you have any pictures of him you can show me? So I started looking through my camera roll because I've known him for a while, so I was super confident I had a picture of us together. But after scrolling for about 5 minutes, I only found one picture. And the only reason I had this one was because it's the picture that the Postmates driver takes of you when they deliver your food. I had it saved because the Postmates driver used flash to take the picture, so we looked terrified and I thought it was super funny. So I had no other option but to show this picture to the girl and she was like, is that the best pic you got? Then I was like, girl, that's the only pic I got. Keep in mind, we've been friends since 1st grade, yet the only picture I had of us together was one that the Postmates driver took. I just got banned from my favorite restaurant for life because my friend thought one of the girls that worked there was super pretty. And we eat here all the time, so eventually he got her number and soon after that, they started dating. But this was really dumb of my friend to do because after a while, he lost feelings and broke up with her. So they were not on good terms, but she still worked at the restaurant and we still wanted to eat there. But we knew we could never go when she was on the clock because she hates us now and it would be super awkward. But the first time we tried going after they broke up, it ended horribly because she told all her coworkers about how my friend broke her heart. So they just gave us the worst service ever on purpose. Like I ordered a burger and I'm pretty sure that thing was still mooing because they did not cook it at all. They also didn't come around and give us refills once. I don't know why I got dragged into this though. I didn't do anything to her. I just wanted my half-pound burger with American cheese and grilled onions. But instead, I gotta keep eating this dang yogurt. A person I went to school with passed away like a year ago, and I was going through a list of the people that I follow, and their name came up, so I'm trying to decide if I should unfollow them or not. I feel like it's messed up to do, but we weren't close or anything, we were just acquaintances. And I know this may sound crazy, but I have a feeling that if I unfollow them, their ghost will haunt me. I know it probably won't happen, but I don't want to take the chance. Like, they're never gonna post again, so do I need to follow them? Also, their account is private, so if I unfollow them, I will never be able to follow them again. What do I do? Gender reveals are going way too far. Because tell me why I just saw one where the couple was in a jacuzzi. So I was thinking the color of their bathing suit would change to blue or pink when they got out or something like that. But no, instead, they count down going 3, 2, 1. And then there's just an awkward silence for a second where no one moves until you slowly start to see the water in the jacuzzi turn pink. They were finding out the gender of their baby by peeing in a jacuzzi. And they were doing it in front of their whole family. There's no way one of them thought of that idea, pitched it to their partner, and they were like, wow, that's a great idea. I'm convinced someone forced them to do this. But somehow, that's not even as bad as another gender reveal I heard about on the news because they used colored fireworks and it started a forest fire. There goes that kid's college fund. Like, why can't y'all just stick to slicing open a cake or something? Someone put my number on Craigslist saying that I'm selling wheelchairs. So now every day I'm getting calls from old people asking to buy these wheelchairs. So old people are horrible with technology and they don't understand that there's no wheelchairs. So they keep calling me back every day. I don't know if these people just have dementia and they forget that they already called me 20 times or if they're just horrible at using the internet. But either way, they won't stop. So if you see someone selling wheelchairs on Craigslist, it's fake. Don't call the number. Nobody talks about how scary it is to see your teacher in public. Because I was at a restaurant with my family one time, but as the waitress was seating us, I see my teacher eating with her family. So I tried looking in the opposite direction because I didn't want her seeing me, but then we arrive at our table, which happened to be the one right next to them. So we sit down and I've just got my head turned like this, which makes my parents be like, Tyler, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, you know, I just got a sore neck. But then they're like, you look ridiculous, sit up straight. So I do, and despite trying my hardest to avoid eye contact, the teacher sees me. So she waves and goes, oh, hi, Tyler. Is this mom and dad? But I didn't want her talking to my parents because I knew she was gonna tell them how bad I behave in class. So I'm just like, yeah, and then she goes, this one's a big troublemaker, huh? And my parents look at me confused because they had no idea about my behavior in class. So to stop her from saying any more, I was just like, enjoy your dinner, Miss Garendo. This is your warning to never text a girl past midnight. Because I used to like this girl, so I would stay up late texting her every night, and I really enjoyed it. But this turned out to be a huge mistake because one night, we're texting at like 12:15 a.m. and I'm super tired because I went on a hike that day, so I'm struggling to keep my eyes open. But we're having a really good conversation, so I don't want to just end it and respond the next day because that would have ruined the flow of it. So I'm fighting super hard to stay awake until eventually, my body forces me to fall asleep. So the next morning, I wake up and check my phone to see that this girl texted me saying, wow, that's so rude of you to say. But I don't remember what I said last night, so I'm like, what is she talking about? So I click on our conversation to see what made her say that, and then I started to remember what happened. Because before I fell asleep, my friend was also texting me asking when I wanted to go snowboarding. So I responded to him saying, I don't care. Or at least I thought I did. Turns out, I actually sent the girl that text because I was so tired. But this was really bad because you know what she said before I sent that text? She said, my grandma's had heart disease for a while. So basically, I said, I don't care about that. Well, isn't that great timing? How do people break up, then say they hate their ex? Because I know so many people who are like, my ex is the worst person on earth. My ex is so ugly. You literally chose to date them. A couple of months ago, you said you loved them. Do you know how much you have to like someone to date them? And now all of a sudden they're ugly? Like, why can't a relationship just end and both people say, oh, we just weren't a good match? Your ex doesn't always have to be the worst person on earth. Personally, I don't think it's a good look when you talk that negative about your ex. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Why does everything cause cancer these days? Like, someone told me that I needed to start wearing sunscreen or else I would get skin cancer, so I did. But then when I started using the sunscreen, I saw a video talking about how that exact sunscreen causes cancer too. What am I supposed to even do at this point? I'm scared to breathe because I think someone's gonna say that causes cancer. I'm just gonna stay inside my house for the rest of my life. Why does school make you so ugly? Like, every morning I wake up and get ready for about 30 minutes trying to look my absolute best for all the ladies. And when I leave the house, I feel like I look like Brad Pitt. But the moment I walk through those school gates, I turn into Quasimodo. And you might be like, oh, Tyler, it's all in your head. But no, I've literally taken pictures before to prove it. I took a pic of myself right before leaving for school, and then I took a pic when I arrived in class. And when you compare them, I looked more different than Michael Jackson when he switched colors. But how I know for sure that I'm not crazy is this doesn't just happen to me. Like, there are girls I went to school with, and whenever they would post on social media, I almost wouldn't recognize them because of how different they looked online compared to in person. But the most frustrating part about all this is right when school ends and I go back home, I look fine again. Who's doing this to us? Why are people in scary movies so dumb? Because I was just watching a scary movie that made me so frustrated with the characters that by the end, I was hoping the killer would get them. Like, tell me why I'm watching this movie where these girls are given a videotape and they're told that if they watch it, they will pass away. But what do? Immediately watch the tape. Like, I have no sympathy for you. People in horror movies just need to mind their own business. Don't watch these haunted tapes, don't go inside any freaky tunnels, and don't buy a house where the past 40 people who lived in it mysteriously passed away. Have you ever noticed that every person who doesn't make it in a horror movie was snooping around somewhere they shouldn't have been? Like, this is how I would be if I was in a horror movie. What's that? Oh, you think we should go into that creepy house over there even though you literally just saw a ghost turn the last person who entered into a pretzel? Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I hate Christmas for one reason, which is the fact that I don't know how to react to receiving gifts. Like, someone could literally give me a Lamborghini as a present and this would be my reaction. Oh, nice. And that's not even an exaggeration because one year on Christmas, I really wanted a specific bike. I told my parents how bad I wanted it for months, but it was really expensive. So they were like, sorry, Tyler, but don't expect to get the bike for Christmas. So when Christmas Day came, I ran into the living room to see if there were any big boxes that could have this bike in it. But there weren't any, so I was super sad until we all finished opening presents and my mom said, wait guys, there's one more gift for Tyler. Then she went into the garage and came back with the exact bike I asked for. I was so happy on the inside, but because I'm so bad at reacting to gifts, my parents thought I didn't even like it. So next time I get a gift, this is how I'm gonna be. A screwdriver? No way, Mom and Dad, you guys are the best. This is your warning to never work at a fast food restaurant. Because when I was 15, I got my very first job at a Taco Bell, but I quit after a week because I didn't realize how bad it would be. Like, I had this coworker who was at least 50 years old, and he would always work the same exact shift as me, but he was going through a divorce at the time. So every day, he would just tell me about his family problems. He was talking about how his wife was gonna leave him and take the kids with her because he couldn't afford to pay the bills, and I was like, well, yeah, you work at Taco Bell. But he would talk to me like I was his therapist. Like, dog, I'm 15, I've never been in a relationship. How do you think I could possibly help you with this? Just put the tacos in the bag. He's working there to keep a roof over his family's head. Meanwhile, I'm just clocking in so I can afford the new Fortnite Battle Pass. Like, I did not sign up for this. And don't get me wrong, I felt bad for him. So I still tried giving him advice. It definitely wasn't good advice because they still got divorced, but I tried. Does anyone else have a friend who eats non-stop but never gains weight? Like, I know a guy who will eat in literally any scenario, yet he's still super skinny. And I'm not even exaggerating because his sister had a baby recently and he sent me a bunch of pictures of him holding it for the first time in the delivery room. And he said they were taken like 20 minutes after the baby was born. But what I found odd about the pictures was that in a lot of them, his mouth looked full. So I was like, dude, did you get stung by a bee or something while you were in there? And he was like, no, I was eating Burger King. So I was like, hold up, let me get this straight. You were eating Burger King in the delivery room 20 minutes after your sister had a baby. And he goes, yeah, I was hungry. You're always hungry. That doesn't mean you eat a Whopper 14 seconds after your baby nephew was born. But the craziest part is that he does stuff like this all the time, yet he never gains weight. Meanwhile, I sniffed a cinnamon roll the other day and gained 13 pounds. Must be nice. Have you ever gotten close with someone you never thought you'd talk to? Because back in school, I had two separate friends that hated each other. Because when I would hang out with one of them, the other one would get upset that I wasn't hanging out with them. So one day, I had the idea for us to all eat lunch together. Because they never even actually talked. The only reason they didn't like each other was because of me. So we all ate lunch together that day, and I think both of them started to realize that they had a lot more in common than they thought, and the only reason they disliked each other was for a dumb reason. So over time, we started to hang out as a group, and I was super happy about it at first, but unfortunately, they grew way closer than I ever expected because eventually, they started hanging out without me. It was basically like introducing your girlfriend to your homie, and then she cheats on you with him. I hope y'all are happy together, man. This is a warning if you're thinking about texting your crush first, because I used to like this girl, but I would never text her because I thought to myself, if she likes me back, she'll initiate the conversation. But she never did, so we literally never talked. And I saw her for the first time in years yesterday, and I asked her, why did you never hit me up? And she said, I was waiting for you to make the first move. So we literally never talked because we were both waiting for the other person to make the first move. And I was thinking to myself like, damn, I wonder what could have happened between us if I hit her up first. But now she's engaged, so I think that's off the table. But this should be your sign. If you like someone, text them first. They'll probably be happy you did, or they'll block you. At least you'll get an answer. Nobody talks about how scary it is to play music with your parents in the car. Because I never realized how dirty most of the songs I like are until I listened to them around my mom and dad. Like one time, I was in the car with them and I needed to charge my phone, so I plugged it into the aux, which made my music start playing. Then I was like, oh, let me choose a good song so my parents think I have a good music taste. So I put on the song With Them by Young Thug. But if you've ever heard this song before, you know that the moment it starts playing, it gets really inappropriate. So my mom was like, oh my gosh, Tyler, this is so vulgar. And my dad was like, heck yeah, this is awesome. But I was so embarrassed. I quickly changed it to gospel music just to try to make them forget about what happened. Like I literally had no idea how dirty that song was until I listened to it with my parents in the car. I guess I just never actually pay attention to lyrics, but I learned my lesson. Never again. Situationships need to be abolished. Because every time I hear someone talk about their situationship, it just sounds like a bad rom-com. Like, what do you mean you guys have been in the talking stage for 2 years? Let's be real. If you are not dating by then, you're never gonna be. But then they'll be like, no, we're soulmates. We've already planned our future together. Yet at the same time, they will purposely avoid making eye contact with them when they pass each other at school. But it gets worse because one day they'll be crying, so you have to ask them why they're crying, and then they'll say it's because their situationship is talking to other people. So then you say, well, are you guys dating? And they say no, so then you say, yeah, that's what happens when someone's single. They talk to other people. But then they say, she's not single though. What? Situationships are more confusing than my math class, and I'm almost failing. I genuinely get a headache trying to understand them. You know what a situationship really is? Delusion. Because has anyone ever had a situationship that actually worked out in the long term? No. So that means you should break up with your situationship. Or don't, actually. I don't care. Just stop talking to me about them. Why are guys so bad at taking hints? Because I fumbled the bag with girls so many times because I couldn't tell they were flirting. Like, I used to sit next to this girl in school, and one day she was like, man, my back is super sore. I really wish I could get a massage. But as she said this, she leaned over towards me as if she was insinuating that she wanted me to give her the massage. But being the clueless man I am, I was just like, oh, I actually have back problems too. I could recommend you a really good therapist. But then she was like, oh no, that's okay. I think I really need the massage like right now. Then she scooted over even closer. So finally, I knew she wanted me to give her the massage. So I said I could help her. But I still didn't know she was flirting. So I did not give her the massage she was looking for. Because I just did the karate chop on her back. She was like, why are you doing it like that? And I said, the massage therapist told me this is the best way to get the knots out of your back. Trust me. But after about 5 seconds, she was like, It's okay, you can stop. I can never notice the hints until it's too late. Does anyone else ever text someone on one social media app while having a completely different conversation with them at the same time on another app? Like, my friend was texting me on iMessage telling me how angry he was with me because I couldn't make it to his birthday party. But then on another app, we were texting about if we think we could land a plane if the pilot passed away. Like, he didn't even seem angry in that conversation, but on the other app, he was furious. But this gave me an idea. If your girlfriend or boyfriend is mad at you, just start texting them on a different app. They might not be mad at you anymore. This could actually work. Welcome back to oversharing to you guys because I don't have any friends to overshare to. So I always thought I was gonna want an open casket at my funeral, but I recently found out that that is a horrible idea. Because last month I went to a funeral that had an open casket, and while everyone was super sad and crying, there was a girl that's about 11 years old, and she ran up to the casket and took a selfie with the corpse. Yes, she took a selfie with a deceased body. Now I don't blame her, she's a child, but if you think I'm gonna get caught lacking at my own funeral and let someone take a selfie with me while I can't pose, that's not happening. I get insecure when people take pictures of me when I know it's gonna happen. You think I'm gonna let someone take a picture of me while I can't pose? No. Like, imagine if they get a picture of your bad side. That's so embarrassing. I'm not letting that happen. This is your warning to never invite me to a funeral. Because I went to one of my friend's grandma's funeral a long time ago. But right when we arrived, everyone was crowding around her casket. And I didn't know why, so being the young, curious kid I was, I walked over to the casket. And this was one of the first funerals I've ever been to, but prior to this, I had no idea that some funerals have open caskets. So I walk right up to the casket and see that it's open, but I was too little to actually see inside it. So I got closer to it and stood on my tippy toes, and that was when I saw my friend's grandma just chilling there. I screamed so loud because at the time, I genuinely thought that I saw a ghost. It just looked like she was sleeping, and I had no idea what was going on, so I started crying. Not for the same reason everyone else was, but it just made the whole situation so awkward. If anyone from that family is watching this, my bad. This is your warning to never date someone who's the youngest child. Because I was talking to this girl once, and she invited me over to have dinner with her family. But what she didn't tell me is that she's the youngest sibling, and she has 3 older brothers. So right when I walk in their house, all 3 of the brothers are in the living room staring at me. And they had a very serious look on their face, so I introduced myself to them. But I could tell they really wanted to intimidate me because they shook my hand really hard. So the intimidation was working because later on, we're all at the dinner table eating until one of the brothers goes, hey mom, look at this new toy I got. Then he goes into his room and comes back with a machete. So we're all just eating dinner while he has a machete at the table. But the scary part is he started sharpening it while making eye contact with me. He was basically saying like, hey, if you mess with my sister, I'm gonna use this thing on you. And listen, I liked this girl, but not enough to fight off ninjas. So that was the last time I ever went over there. Never let your parents see your browsing history. Because one time, I was trying to find this song that I couldn't remember the title of. So I typed the only lyrics I remembered into Google. But these lyrics happened to be very weird, and this is how they went. If you was my sister, then I would kiss you. And I made the mistake of not clearing out my browsing history once I found the song, because a couple days later, my mom asked if she could look something up on my computer, so I let her. And right as she typed the letter I into Google, it showed my previous search, which was, if you were my sister, I would kiss you. So when she saw this, she was like, Tyler, why would you Google this? And I was like, Mom, it's not what it looks like. I can explain. But then she goes, Actually, you know what? Don't even tell me. I don't want to know. But I was like, Mom, no, I promise it's not as weird as it sounds. But I could tell she didn't believe me. So now I'm pretty sure that she thinks I want to kiss my sister, and I don't even have one. Never meet your online friends in person. Because there was this person I was friends with on social media since we both watched each other's content. And we talked quite a bit. So eventually they were like, we should meet up in person. And I was like, yeah, I'm down. But this was a big mistake because we planned on meeting each other sometime in 2025. But a couple weeks after we planned it, I opened up social media one day and find out they're on the run from the police because they were involved in their therapist passing away. When I first saw this, I was like, oh, it just must be another internet joke. But then I saw actual news stations reporting it. So I was like, wait, they might have done this. So I called them, no response. Text them, no response. And after a couple days, my text messages went from being blue to green. So I don't know where they're at right now, but I can tell you that we are not meeting in real life anymore. Nobody talks about how embarrassing it is when your teacher says to get into groups, but no one wants to work with you. Because one time, I was put in the math class at my school that's meant for the smartest students, so it's really hard. But I'm not smart with math. I don't know why I was put in it. So when the day came where we had to do a group project, it was awful because the teacher said to get into groups of 4. So I start looking around at everyone I know in the class. But every time I'd make eye contact with someone, they'd look away because no one wanted to work with me. And I don't blame them. I would have just held them back. But what made it traumatizing is since I couldn't find a group, I asked the teacher if I could work alone. But since there was no one left to work with, she was my partner. I mean, the good thing was I got an A on the project because of her, but still. Remembering you have free will is so crazy because I used to get bullied in school for being a little chubby. It wasn't that bad. It was just kind of annoying. But anyways, this one guy would always make jokes about me. So one day, I'm at school and he's cooking me like usual, saying I got more rolls than a Thanksgiving dinner. Good one, can't lie. But he's making all these jokes and I'm getting so angry that I'm about to do something that's gonna get me put in detention. But then randomly out of nowhere, I was like, wait, I don't have to listen to this. So as he's making fun of me, without saying anything, I just start walking away. And the guy kind of stutters for a second because he's confused what I'm doing. So then he's like, hey, where are you going? But I just ignored him and kept walking until he stopped trying to say anything to me. And once I realized this works, I just did it every day until eventually he stopped bothering me. I'm gonna just leave every time I'm talking to someone I don't want to talk to. Nobody talks about how scary it is to go to school the day after a substitute leaves a bad note. Because one time, my class had a substitute who was an old lady, but she was super small and not intimidating. So the whole time she would try to teach, everyone would just mess around and talk over her. It got to the point where she had to scream just so everyone would be quiet. But after she did that, she said she'd be leaving our teacher a note about how bad we behaved. So the next day, I walk into the classroom and see a list of 7 names on the whiteboard, but one of them was mine. So the bell rings and the teacher goes, everyone sit down and don't say a word. So we did. Then the teacher says, never in my 35 years of teaching have I gotten a note this bad from a substitute. They left me a list with names of everyone who misbehaved, and all of you who are on it will be staying an hour after class for the next week writing an apology essay to the sub. So if you have a substitute, just behave. How do you compliment the opposite gender without making them think you're flirting? Because the other day I saw this girl and she had a sick jacket on. So I said, I like your jacket. And she was really sweet, but she was like, oh, thank you. But I actually have a boyfriend. Okay. And I have a goldfish. Like, are we just naming things that we have or what? Like, I don't think I could have said nice jacket any more platonically than I did, but it still sounded like I was flirting. But the worst part is that now it seems like I was desperate for her and I just got turned down. So how do I make it sound like I'm not flirting? Like, do I just need to be like, girl, that jacket is slaying? Because I've thought about it, and that's like the only way I think I can give a compliment without it sounding flirtatious. What if I just start giving compliments in sign language? Would that work? I'm gonna be like, girls who grew up with brothers are way different than girls who grew up with sisters. Because I have 2 friends that are girls. However, one of them only has brothers while the other just has sisters. And the difference between them is night and day because we would eat lunch together all the time, but eventually I noticed something strange while we ate, which was that the girl with just brothers would always eat her food like 5 times faster than the girl with just sisters. But not only did she eat faster, she also always looked worried that someone was gonna take the food from her. So one time I was like, damn girl, no one's gonna steal your food. But then she explained to me that it's a habit for her to eat like this because when she was younger, she had to eat her food super fast or else her brothers would just take it all. She rarely ever got to actually have a full meal because her brothers would just eat the majority of the food. Meanwhile, the girl with the sister ate like a damn turtle. You know she wasn't competing for food in her house. School bathrooms have to be the scariest place on earth because one time my mom bought me donuts for breakfast and I love donuts, so I ate 7 of them, then went directly to school. But about 2 hours into class, I felt rumblings in my stomach and it felt like Mike Tyson was in a fight with my intestines. So at that point, I knew I had no choice but to go into the school bathroom and go number 2. So I went into the stall, but then someone else walked into the bathroom with a speaker playing music. Then I heard another person come in, and another. and another. Eventually there was like 30 people inside the bathroom and they were all singing along to the music that was playing through the speaker. But they were going crazy in there. They were shaking the stall doors, throwing pencils. It felt like a war zone. I was terrified, but I had no idea what was going on. So when I got out of the stall, I asked someone what was happening. And apparently they were having a memorial for Harambe passing away because this was the day after that happened. Honestly, I wasn't even mad because I miss Harambe too, man. This is your warning to not be an instigator because I got 2 kids suspended from school for being one. So there was these kids in my class who had beef with each other because they dated the same girl and I sat next to the one who was currently dating her. But this was math class and it was super boring, so I decided to instigate. So these kids would just stare at each other with angry looks during class, but it never felt like they were actually gonna do anything. It was like when 2 dogs bark at each other from behind a gate, but then when you open the gate, they stop acting tough. It was like that. But then one day, the kid I sat next to showed up to class really angry and I was like, what's going on? He was like, my girl's ex keeps talking trash about me. And because I was so bored, I was like, oh, this is my shot. So I was like, bro, what are you doing? And he was like, what do you mean? And then I said, you're just gonna let him talk like that? Personally, I wouldn't allow that. And then he was like, should I do something? And then I said, well, only if you love your girlfriend, yeah. So this motivated him and he told the other guy to meet him at lunch to fight. And the other guy agreed because they both still liked the girl. So they fought and the teacher saw and they both ended up getting suspended. And the worst part was it wasn't even a good fight. I feel kind of horrible because this was definitely my fault. So don't do this, guys. Don't do it. Never tell your barber that you don't like their haircut because one time I was at a barber shop and the barber literally sliced a dude's ear. Like his ear started bleeding. It looked like Mike Tyson bit it. But because the guy was so scared to tell the barber that there was a problem, he just told him it was fine and to keep cutting his hair. And I know he was lying because I could literally see him trying to hold back tears during the rest of the haircut. But there was nothing you could have done to make that man tell the barber that he had a problem with the haircut. You just can't do it. I don't know why. You can never tell the barber you don't like their haircut. I think it might be illegal. Waking up first at a sleepover is the worst thing ever. Because whenever I was at a sleepover, I would always wake up at like 6 a.m. because I can't sleep unless I'm in my own bed. So I'd obviously be the first one awake. But this was a big problem because the only other person who was up would be my friend's dad. And don't get me wrong, I like my friend's dad, but he scared me. He wasn't much of a talker. So when the morning came around and it was just us 2 up, he would be like, I'm making breakfast right now. I'll make you some too. And I couldn't decline the breakfast because that would be rude. But when he made it, we would just sit there eating together without him saying anything. We'd literally be at the table sitting across from each other and he would just be silent the whole time. And I was like 10, so I didn't know how to have a conversation with an adult. So it was the most awkward thing ever. But after the first couple times this happened, I just pretended to be asleep after I woke up. I'd still be up at like 6 a.m., but I would just sit there with my eyes closed for like 4 hours waiting for my friends to wake up. Maybe the reason I always woke up first at my friend's house was because he would just give me a cardboard box to sleep on and not a real bed. I miss those days. Third wheeling a couple can either be the best experience ever or the worst experience ever because I used to third wheel my friend and his girlfriend and it literally felt like I was their child. I loved it. But when they would argue, it was horrible because they would make me get involved. Like my friend forgot their 1-year anniversary, so she got really angry at him. And then they started arguing with each other, so they asked me for my opinion on the situation. And what am I supposed to say? No matter who I agree with, someone is gonna be mad at me. But the worst part was that when they broke up, I literally felt like I was a child going through divorce. Like after the breakup, she would talk trash about him to me and he would talk trash about her to me. And I was like, you guys know that I'm still friends with both of you, right? Like stop talking bad about each other. Grow up already. You signed the papers already, all right? The divorce is final. Leave me out of it. Have you ever told your mom to say no to a sleepover because you didn't want to go? Because I hated sleepovers as a child since I'd always be the first to fall asleep. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night with a tooth missing or something because everyone else would mess with me. But I have cool parents, so most of the time when one of my friends asked if I wanted to sleep over, my mom would say yes. So eventually, when I didn't want to go, I would just text my mom and be like, Mom, I'm gonna call you in a couple minutes to ask if I can sleep over at my friend's house. Please say no. And my mom would rather have me sleeping at home than at a friend's anyway, so she had no problem doing it. But my friends would always get mad at me because this is how the phone call would go. Hey mom, can I sleep over at my friend's house? No. Okay, bye. So they'd be like, dude, you didn't even try to convince her at all. And I would just be like, what? Yeah, I did. Little did they know, I was just terrified to fall asleep around them. Never hire a Gen Z person to work for you. Because I was just at Chick-fil-A and the line was taking forever. But when it was my turn to order, I tell the guy what I want. But as I'm doing that, he keeps looking up directly behind me every 5 seconds. So I thought there was a ghost standing behind me or something. But then out of nowhere, he looks at the clock again, turns around, gets his stuff, and then leaves. Right in the middle of taking my order. So another worker sees this, rolls her eyes, and then finishes taking my order. But I asked her why that guy just left randomly, and she said he always leaves the second his shift ends. So the reason he was looking up behind me is because there was a clock on the wall, and the minute that clock struck 8 p.m., he was out of there. Honestly, I respect it because if you ain't getting paid to stay longer, you might as well leave. But bro, can you at least finish taking my order next time? Nobody talks about how embarrassing it is when someone says you look like someone that is not good looking. Because I was at the mall the other day and a person who watches my videos came up to me and was like, Tyler, I'm so glad I found you. So I respond with, oh yeah, why is that? And he goes, because every time I watch your videos, I always think of how you look so much like this one movie character. So I ask what character and he says he'll show me. But before he does, he goes, you probably won't see it at first, but if you really look, there's a resemblance. So I'm thinking he's about to show me a picture of Brad Pitt or something, but then he turns the phone and it's the rat from Flushed Away. Immediately I was like, what are you talking about? I look nothing like him. But then he was like, here, compare it to a picture of yourself. So I do, and after a few seconds, I'm like, oh my gosh, I do look like him. You gotta be kidding me, man. Imagine meeting someone who watches your content in public and they just cook you. I can't catch a break. Nobody talks about how much worse pick-me boys are than pick-me girls. Cause I hear people all the time roast girls for being pick-me's, but boys are way worse. Cause I went to school with a pick-me guy and we sat next to each other in class. But there was also 2 other girls at our table and he would always try flirting with them. And they didn't really seem interested in him, but this kid was bold. So he would straight up just be like, do any of you guys wanna give me your number? And when they would politely decline, he would be like, yeah, I get it. I'm probably just too ugly, huh? But the very worst pick-me thing he ever did was when he brought a book to school and during all of lunch, he looked like he was reading it. So I asked him what the book was about and he said he didn't know. He just pretended to read the book hoping that girls would notice him. I respect it though. Game is game. Why do old people never throw expired food away? Like they'll have food from before World War II in their house, and that's not even an exaggeration because I went to my friend's grandpa's house one time and we were hungry, so my friend asked his grandpa if he had any snacks and he was like, yeah, check the fridge. So we open it and we find some cheese, so we're like, ooh, let's have cheese and crackers. So my friend asks his grandpa again if they have any crackers and he says, yeah, check the pantry. But we couldn't find any, so he comes to help us look and he reaches all the way in the back to find this dusty aluminum container, and when he opens it, there's crackers inside. But the container looks straight out of the war, so my friend made a joke saying, hey grandpa, did you get this when you were fighting in the war? And with a straight face, he goes, yeah. So my friend was like, wait, are you serious? And he says, yeah, I got these fighting in Vietnam. Those crackers were 60 years old. He lost his hearing in the war, but he made sure to keep his crackers. Having class with your friend is the worst thing ever because during school one day, a girl tripped walking to her desk and it was so bad that she dislocated her ankle. So she starts crying, but it's not like a cry. No, she's screaming. So the teacher and her friends are trying to console her while they're waiting for the nurse to get there. And the rest of the class is just kind of silent watching this happen, including me. Until I look over at my best friend because he had the tiniest smirk on his face. So the moment I saw that, I started laughing out loud. It wasn't on purpose. I just can't stop myself from laughing every time I see that face. But the girl and her friends heard me laugh, and there was no way for me to explain that I wasn't laughing at them. I was laughing at my homie. They should blame my friend though. It's not my fault he was looking at me with that John Pork smile. I'm never gonna understand Gen Alpha because I was at the airport the other day and this little kid on my flight recognized me. So we were talking a little bit, but then he started to tell me about the girl he has a crush on. And he starts describing her to me, but he's blushing as he's doing it, so I can tell that he really likes her. So eventually, I ask how they met, and he says that they've known each other since birth. So I'm like, oh wow, are your parents friends or something? But then he goes, no, my mom is her dad's sister. At first I'm like, oh, cool. But then I think about it a little more and I'm like, wait, your mom is her dad's sister. That means that girl is your cousin. He's still young though, so that's not a big deal. But I was thinking that I should probably tell him that it's not gonna work out between them. So I do, and he goes, oh, okay, I won't like her anymore then. I like another girl anyway. And I go, oh really? Who? Then he says, my crush's sister. That's still your cousin, dog. At this point, you do you, bro. This is your warning to never use the bathroom on an airplane. Because I was just on a flight and I got up to use the restroom, but someone was in there. So I waited until I heard the seatbelt sign turn on and the captain said, we're gonna be running into some slight turbulence for a little bit. Please sit down. But I really had to go to the bathroom, so I stayed by the door. And there was a moment where the whole plane shook really hard from the turbulence and I heard a loud thud come from the bathroom. So about 30 seconds later, the man in the bathroom comes out and he's staring at the ground, making sure to not make eye contact with me. But then I look down at his pants and they're all wet. So I go inside the bathroom and there is liquid all over the place. So I don't know if he was in the middle of going number one while the turbulence hit us and he lost control, or if something else happened. But it got even worse because after I was done in the bathroom, I came out and someone else was waiting, but right when they walked in, I heard them say, ew. So they definitely thought I was responsible for the mystery liquid. Thanks a lot, bathroom man. Nobody talks about how embarrassing it is when someone says, you would be a cute couple to you and your crush, but they don't agree. Because one time, I was talking to this girl and my friend knew that I liked her, so to help me out, he became my wingman and said, you know what I just realized about you guys? You would look so good as a couple. When he said this, I waited to see how she would react before I did anything, but immediately, with no hesitation, she just starts laughing hysterically. No words, just laughing. I've literally told her actual jokes before and I couldn't get her to laugh, but this did. So I don't know what to do now, and I just start laughing trying to match her energy, but then she's like, wait, why are you laughing? And I was like, well, why are you laughing? And she goes, because we never date, obviously. So then I'm like, yeah, that's totally why I laugh too. But then she just responds with, oh. What do you mean, oh? Like, why is it fine when you do it but not me? Does she want me to like her or not? I don't know what I'm supposed to say. To every person who thinks they would save their school if they had a school shooter, trust me, you would not. Because I used to think the same thing until one day I was in class and there was an announcement over the speaker saying that someone was walking around campus with a weapon. And at first, I thought it was just another school drill until my teacher said, guys, we don't have a drill scheduled today. This is real. And he sounded really nervous saying that. So it was in this moment where I realized I was not built for this. Because you know how they say you either go into fight or flight mode during these situations? Well, I went straight into flight because I ran to the back of the class as far away from the door as possible. I even took this girl's Stanley bottle to use as a shield because those things are basically bulletproof. But after about 5 minutes, there was another announcement that said it was a false alarm and the weapon was fake. Don't get me wrong, I was super relieved, but I also realized I am not Batman. Why do girls make it so hard to tell when they like you? Because I probably would have had a girlfriend by now if all girls weren't like this. Like anytime I was ever into a girl, when I would see them, I'd smile and try to make it really obvious that I liked them. But the response back would always be them giving me a face like this. And you may be like, well, Tyler, that just means they don't like you. And that's what I used to think too, but no. Because there have been multiple scenarios where a girl would look at me as if she thought I was the most disgusting creature ever, only to find out later that she liked me. I don't know what love language that is, but all girls seem to have it. And this is why I never ask girls out, because even if I like someone, I literally have no idea if they like me back because of how girls act when they're into someone. She could literally despise me or have a crush on me, and she'd give me the same exact look. Nobody talks about the difference between how girls make plans versus guys. Because with girls, they make them months in advance. I've met a girl before that had her next 6 months planned out in a calendar day by day. But for guys, it's way different because my friend recently got married, but we haven't talked a lot the past couple years. So when I saw him post on social media that he proposed to his girlfriend, I wasn't sure if I would get invited to the wedding. So about 6 months went by and I never received an invitation, so I figured I just didn't make the list. But then randomly, I get a phone call from him, so I pick it up and he goes, yo man, long time no see. What are you doing on November 9th? And I was like, November 9th as in tomorrow? And he goes, yeah. So I tell him I'm not doing anything. And then he's like, oh, bet. Well, do you want to come to my wedding? So then I said, aren't you supposed to invite people months in advance? But apparently, the only reason I got an invitation is because someone else couldn't make it, so I just filled the spot. I'll take it though. Free food is free food. Never eat in public. Because the other night, I was at a restaurant, and the people in front of me were taking a selfie, so I was in the background of the picture. But I didn't notice they were taking a picture until the very last second. So if you look back at the photo, it looks like I'm just creepily staring into their camera. So I could literally see the girl look at the photo, and then turn back at me like this. But the most embarrassing part is that after this happened, I could still see her phone from where I was sitting. So you wanna know what she did? She made a sticker out of my head on Snapchat. So in someone's camera roll somewhere, there is just a random sticker of my floating head. This is what happens when I go out in public. So yeah, I'm never leaving the house again. Nobody talks about how embarrassing it is when you accidentally talk to a stranger because you thought your friend was behind you. Because I was at an amusement park with my friends one time, but when we're all together, we make some weird jokes. So we're all walking, but out of nowhere, my stomach starts to hurt from the nachos I ate earlier. And I knew I needed to get to a bathroom because they were gonna come out one way or another. So I let out a little fart because I couldn't control it. And I had to say something after that because it's really awkward if you just fart without acknowledging it. So I turn around to what I thought was my friend and say, it feels like my butt is having a fireworks show. But right as I say that, I see a dad with a big beard holding his daughter's hand. So they both heard it. I thought my friend was walking right behind me. That's why I said it. I literally jumped when I saw that I was talking to the wrong person because not only did he hear this weird sentence I said, but he also heard the fart too. Right when I saw him, I said sorry and quickly turned around and went as fast as possible the other way. It was like this. Dude, it feels like my butt's having a fireworks show. I'm sorry to that man. You know how when you have a crush on someone, you stalk all their social medias to learn more about them? Yeah, well, I do not recommend doing that because one time I liked this girl and I was looking through her profiles online and I found a picture of her with her mom. So being the investigator I am, I clicked on the mother's profile to check it out. But when I did that, I found a picture her mom posted with a man. So I was like, oh, this must be my crush's father. But then I click on his profile and see that he has a different last name in her. So I'm like, that's odd. And after a little more research, I found out that her parents were divorced and this was the mom's new boyfriend. So fast forward a few days later, I'm talking to this girl and she's telling me about how she had a hard childhood. So I slipped up and was like, yeah, I totally get it. I mean, having divorced parents can't be easy. But then she goes, wait, how'd you know my parents were divorced? And I was like, you told me, duh. Anyways, look at that bird. So then we changed the subject, but she definitely knew I was doing some investigating on her. Why do people make their phone flash when they get a notification? Because my friend almost got beat up for this the other day because we were at a restaurant and he was holding his phone, but then he got a text, so it started flashing like a fire alarm. And at first, No one said anything until he got another text about 30 seconds later, which made it flash again. But my friend was holding his phone like this when he got the notifications, so it was flashing to the table next to us. And the people sitting there was a family with 2 little kids. So the dad yelled at my friend and was like, "Hey, why are you taking pictures of my family?" So my friend tried to explain that he wasn't taking pictures and it was just his ridiculous notification alert. But the dad didn't believe him at all, and I don't blame him, because who would choose to make their phone do that? But then my friend showed him that he was telling the truth by having me text him. But honestly, I was kind of hoping the dad would beat my friend up just so he would finally change the damn ringtone. Nobody talks about how scary it is when you get called to the principal's office and your whole friend group is there. Because one time I was in class and the school phone starts ringing, so my teacher picks it up and is like, okay, I'll tell him. Tyler, you need to go to the principal's office right now. So I'm thinking my mom pulled me out of school to go on a vacation or something, and I'm not worried at all until I arrive to the office. And inside, I see 4 of my friends. But not only were they my friends, they were all people I'm in a group chat with. And they're looking at me all worried, so I'm like, oh no. I know what happened. Our group chat text finally got leaked. It's over, we're cooked. Or at least that's what I thought, because once I arrived, the principal told us she was glad we were all there because she needed to talk to us as a group. But what she told us was that she saw us jaywalking one day after school and that we need to stop doing that. When she said that, we all took a big exhale looking at each other. As long as she didn't find out about the group chat, I don't care what we're getting in trouble for. Never go to the chiropractor if you get embarrassed easily, because I've been having back problems lately, so my friend was like, hey, you should try going to the chiropractor. And he gave me the number of the one he goes to, and I was like, I'll give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? Well, I regret saying that because I show up, and this guy is like super friendly, like over friendly. And he tells me to lay down on the table, so I do. And he starts rubbing his elbow in my back real hard, and it's kind of hard to breathe when he does this. By the way, I had Chipotle before I came here, which is an important detail. Because the chiropractor would do this thing where he would be like, okay, take a deep breath, and I would, and then he would tell me to exhale, and he would push on my back really hard. But I was not aware just how much force he was gonna put into my back when he did this. So I exhaled, and he pushed into my back, and I let out the loudest fart ever. It was like the fart was being shot out of a cannon with how aggressive it sounded, but I think I almost blew my shorts off. And the chiropractor chuckled a little bit, but then he was like, oh, don't worry, this happens all the time. But then he starts coughing, and I'm like, damn, did I just gas this guy out with the fumes from my fart? So he finishes adjusting my back, but then he's like, do you want me to adjust your neck too? And I almost said yes, but then I thought about it, and I was like, is he just asking this so he can snap my neck for revenge? So I said, no, thank you, and I left. But I'm just gonna suffer through the back pain from now on. I'm not going back. What would you do if a little kid's mom screamed at you for roasting her baby? Because that's what happened to me. So I was at the mall the other day waiting to check out, and the person in front of me is holding a baby on their shoulder. And because I'm so full of jolly and glee, I start making funny faces at it trying to make it laugh. And it does, but the mother notices her baby chuckling, so she turns around to see why. And she sees me, so I say to the mother, she's got a cool laugh, referring to the baby. But the mother did not like that, because then she goes, what'd you just say? So I go, your baby's laugh is cute? And I'm just thinking in my head, what could I possibly have said wrong? But then the mother goes, my baby is not a she, it's a boy. Boys can have long hair too, you know. And listen, she's right. I messed up, I shouldn't have said that, but you don't gotta grill me for it. So I apologize to her, and she goes, James, don't look at him anymore. And she turns her baby around. Me and James were just becoming homies too. Nobody talks about how scary it is when you're at your friend's house and their parents start yelling at them. Because I had a friend whose house I went to once and never again, because the one time I went, it was so awkward. Like right when we walked inside his house, he tried introducing me to his mom, but she wouldn't even acknowledge my existence, because right away, once she saw her son, she was like, Riley, why did I just get your report card in the mail and see that you're failing math? And he was like, Mom, we talked about this the other day. So they start yelling over each other, arguing, but Riley made a huge mistake because he got so mad that he cursed at her. And right when he did that, the mom completely stopped talking, went into another room, came back with a belt, and whooped him. All while I was right there watching. And then when it was over, he's wiping tears from his eyes, and I'm just like, hey man, I got a call from my mom. I actually have to go, sorry. What are you even supposed to do in that situation? I don't know who felt more embarrassed in that moment, me or him. Nobody talks about the difference between how girls act when they have a crush versus guys. Like I knew this one girl that was obsessed with this dude at our school. And I used to think that when girls have a crush, they just tell their friends about it at a sleepover while giggling and kicking their feet in the air. But instead of doing all that, this girl literally just stalked his whole family tree. Like she found his parents' social medias, where everyone in his family went to school, their birthdays. I mean, she probably knew all their blood types too. Like, they should have made the TV show that's called You about this girl. But when a guy likes a girl, we just imagine fake scenarios in our head of us being together. Because last time I liked a girl, I had a dream that was literally just the plot of the Shrek movie, where I was Shrek and she was Fiona and I saved her. But sadly in real life, I just stared at her awkwardly and hoped that she noticed me. Talking to Gen Alpha kids will make you believe that the next generation is doomed. Because last weekend, I decided to help my friend coach a youth baseball team with kids that are 10 to 12 years old. And my friend warned me about how these kids acted, but I was like, they're 10. How hard can it be? But I regret saying that now because I arrived to the game and immediately one kid got there late, so the coach asked him why he wasn't on time. But before he could answer, one of his teammates responded by saying he was doing the 3 a.m. challenge with Livy Dunn. I immediately felt like I lost brain cells after hearing that sentence, but this is how they talk the whole time. They would only speak in brain rot terms. Luckily, I'm chronically online, so I know some brain rot too. So to get them to be quiet, I told them we were gonna have a mewing challenge just so I could get them to keep their mouths shut. That was the only thing that actually worked. And we were supposed to have flying cars by now. Gen Z is gonna be the worst parents ever. Because I was recently invited to a 4-year-old's birthday party. It's not weird, I knew his uncle. But anyways, since it's his birthday, a lot of people got him presents. But one person decided to give him $500. So when the kid opened the envelope with the money, his Gen Z dad's eyes lit up and he said, "Here, give me the money. I'll keep it safe for you, buddy." So the kid reluctantly gave it to him, and you would think the dad took the money and just saved it for when he was older, right? Wrong, because the kid's uncle who I was there with told me that every time someone gives that kid money, his dad takes it and says he'll keep it safe for him when in reality, he just gambles it. So I was like, well, is he at least gonna give the kid some of the money he wins when he's older? But my friend was like, brother, there is no money. Because even if he does win, he just gambles all of that until eventually he has nothing left. That little guy's getting robbed. Have you ever noticed how every group chat has 3 different types of people? Like whether it's a group chat for your friends, family, or one for school, they all have the same 3 people. First, you got the one that always reads the messages, but never responds. You'll send something and they'll be the first one to see it, but they won't say anything. You'll just see their little bitmoji staring at you, but not responding. The second type of person is the one who just sends memes. They literally don't even communicate with words. This one is low-key me because I never know how to respond to people. So if someone says, my girlfriend broke up with me, I just respond by sending a picture of Peter Griffin shooting a fadeaway. But the third person that every group chat has is, to be honest, I don't know. I could only think of 2. Y'all are gonna have to be happy with that, sorry. I just fought a little kid at Disneyland because me, my friend, and his younger brother were waiting in line for a ride for over an hour. But right as we got to the front, this guy that was bigger than the Hulk cut in front of us. And he also had a little brother, so we weren't gonna say anything because this guy was terrifying and we didn't want any problems with him. But my friend's little brother was not having it, so he told the other kid that they have to go to the back of the line. But the kid said no, so they started yelling at each other. But then my friend's little brother said, my brother and his friend will beat you guys up if you don't go to the back of the line. And when he said that, my heart dropped because remember, the guy that cut us was big enough to pick me up like a Barbie doll, so I definitely could not beat him up. I pulled my friend's little brother to the side and I was like, bro, you gotta chill. This man would destroy me. So we just let them cut us. What else could we do? Tell Larry the lobster to go to the back of the line? I sure wasn't going to. This is your warning to never share your location with your friend. Because my friend Mikey just started sharing his location with me and I check it like multiple times a day because I'm nosy. But the other day when I looked at it, it said he was in Cuba. But we're American and he doesn't have a passport. So I was like, how did he get there? So I called him to see what was going on, but no answer. So I wait until the next day and check the location again, but now it's turned off. And later that evening, I get a text from an unknown number that says, hey, it's Mikey. So I'm like, Mikey, what happened to your old phone? Last time I checked, you were in Cuba. But then he told me that while he was at dinner last night, someone stole his backpack that had all his stuff in it, including his phone. Keep in mind, he was in California when this happened. These thieves out here move quick, man. Imagine losing your phone and then checking the location of it one day later and it's halfway to Europe. That phone's traveled more than me. Does anyone else have trauma that's like actually funny? Because I have a fear of garages from a horrible experience I had with one when I was younger. And what happened was I used to play a game where my dad would press the button to close the garage door and I would wait to see how long I could let the garage close before running under at the last second. So one day I was doing this like always, but for some reason this time I decided to just let the garage door close a little bit more before I tried to sprint under it. And the worst possible thing that could have happened. As the garage door got really close to shutting, I tried to sprint under it, but I tripped, so I didn't make it through in time, and the garage door got stuck on my neck. Yes, literally, on my neck. Talk about clumsy. Luckily, it didn't put any pressure on me, but it was pretty funny because my parents were already inside the house, so they didn't know this happened. And all of a sudden, they hear me screaming, so they sprint to the garage, and they see the door literally on my head. My mom said she thought I was decapitated. Anyways, my dad pressed the button to make the garage door back up, and they could see that I was okay. So after I got up, my mom was crying, and she gave me a big hug super tight, and then she got the belt and started spanking me. She was literally crying as she was spanking me with the belt because she was so traumatized, and she was like, this hurts me more than it hurts you. Then stop doing it, Mom! But she didn't, and I deserved it. But anyways, now I'm terrified to walk under garage doors anymore. Why do guys always take on the personality of their girlfriend? Because I have a friend who just got in his very first relationship, and he's clearly madly in love. Good for him. But the only problem is, I texted him the other day showing him a picture of a new jacket that I got, and his response was, it's giving Hunger Games. First of all, ow, that hurts my feelings. Second of all, it's giving? When did you start saying that? I don't even think you knew what that phrase meant 3 months ago. Also, when he said this, I still hadn't met his girlfriend at the time. So about a week later, we all go to lunch together and I finally meet her. And this girl asks what I do for work. And after I tell her, she says, slay. Right when she said that, I was like, oh, okay, now I see what happens. This man just completely stole his girlfriend's whole personality. But good for him. He's in love. I'm not mad about it. Because if you ask about my love life right now, it's giving lonely. What would you do if an animal ruined your day at the zoo? Because that's what happened to me today. So I was at the hippo exhibit and they have this big pool area for them to swim in, which is like 50 feet away from all the people. So I was just chilling, looking at the hippos roam around until one of them decided to go for a swim. But what I didn't realize about hippos is just how heavy they are, because this hippo did not just stroll into the water. It sprinted full speed, then jumped in. And since the hippo is so big, when it hit the water, it made the biggest splash since Rihanna at the Super Bowl. So somehow the water came all the way from the pool 50 feet over to me and everyone else standing by me. We all got drenched because none of us were expecting the water to come that far, so we didn't have time to react. This is literally how it went. Oh, look, the hippo's about to jump in the water. Oh no. You know how when you were in school and your teacher was late to class, everyone thought that if they didn't show up within 15 minutes to class, you could leave? Or maybe that was just at my school, but one time this actually happened in my class, but I didn't know this rule was a thing. So after the 15 minutes passed, a kid told me about it, and for some reason, I just completely believed him, no question. So I left because I was really hungry. So I went to go get a snack from the store next to our school, but apparently this rule is completely false because I came back to school for my next class, and all of a sudden, someone walks into our class, whispers into the teacher's ear, and then the teacher goes, Tyler, they need you in the office. So I go to the office, and that is when I received my first and only ever detention. But then the next day, I show up to the class where the teacher was late, and she was acting like it was my fault. She was like, Tyler, I heard you ditched class yesterday. No, I didn't. You did. But yeah, don't try doing that. It's not true. This is your warning to never use an online dating app. Because my friend was really down bad, so he started using one, and he met this girl on it that he really liked, which led to them agreeing to go on a date. But this date ended up being a nightmare because they decided to do it at a coffee shop. But when my friend arrived, he went up to the girl and started talking to her, but she acted like she had no idea who he was. So to give her some clarity, my friend told her that he was the guy from the dating app, but instead of smiling after hearing that, she frowned. But you know why she frowned? Because my friend made a big mistake when he created his online dating profile, which was to say that his height was 6'1", but that is not how tall he is. And you might be like, oh, so what? He added a few inches to his height. Everyone does that. But no, he didn't just add a few inches because he's 5'4". He almost gave himself a whole nother foot. So I was like, why would you possibly lie that much about your height? And he said he wasn't getting any matches until he changed it to that. I respect the hustle, but what did you expect to happen when you met her? Have you ever had a dream about someone so then you started liking them in real life? Because one night, I go to sleep like normal, but I have a dream out of nowhere about this girl in my math class, and it felt straight out of a rom-com. So when the morning comes, I'm in love with this girl. And you may say, well, Tyler, surely you liked this girl before the dream too, right? No, I barely even knew she existed. She was a girl in my math class I talked to maybe once, which is more than I talk to most women, I guess. But anyways, the point is, I never thought about this girl. But all of a sudden, when I had that dream, I thought she was my soulmate. Like I was planning our future together in my head, but this just shows how much I didn't know who she was. Cause I start looking into her more to learn more about her, and it turns out she had a boyfriend the whole time. So I don't know who's responsible for writing these dreams, but why do you have to play with my emotions like that, man? I mean, would I have even talked to her in real life? Probably not. But still. This is your warning to not text in lowercase, because one time I was texting a girl in lowercase and I thought it was going really well until she said, why are you texting like that? But I didn't really understand what she meant, so I said, texting like what? And then she said, you're typing in lowercase. That's supposed to be for girls only. And then she stopped talking to me. I'm not gonna lie, I was hurt, but I also had a bunch of respect for her because it was true. Every time I typed in lowercase, I always felt just a little sassy, you know? It didn't feel right. I only did it because everyone else did it, but now I learned my lesson. I'm never typing in lowercase again. Gen Z has to be the dumbest generation ever because I just had my final exams for school, which determined whether I passed or failed my classes. And I thought I did really good on them until I got my results back yesterday, because in one of my classes, our final exam was an essay, but since I'm chronically on my phone, instead of using correct punctuation and spelling, I just wrote it like how I would write a text. Like every time I typed the word you, I just spelt it by putting the letter U. And instead of saying because, I just said cuz and spelt it C-U-Z. I even wrote LOL in one of the sentences. I just completely forgot how to write normally. So when I got the paper back, my teacher circled all the incorrect grammar I used and literally said, this doesn't make any sense. This was almost as bad as the time I was in Spanish class and we had to create a short film speaking in Spanish, but I forgot and just did the whole thing in English. Maybe Gen Z's not dumb actually. Maybe it's just me. Why can't people sit in silence together? Like sometimes I want to hang out with someone, but I don't want to talk. I just want to be in their presence. But whenever it gets quiet, we always feel the need to say something. And then it leads to stupid conversations like, Who invented the order of the alphabet? Like, bro, I don't know. Can we just be quiet? Rich people will always try to make it seem like they aren't wealthy because I went to school with a guy who would wear the same thing every day. A black t-shirt with jeans. Nothing special, right? Well, one day we're in class and he's eating blueberries, but he drops one onto his shirt and stains it. So he immediately pulls out his phone, goes online and buys a new black shirt. But you know how much the shirt was? $900. It was a plain black Prada t-shirt. What's the point of spending that much money on a plain t-shirt? I could get one that looks the exact same from Walmart for 40 quarters. But this isn't surprising because this is the same guy who brought a water bottle to school every day from a company called Berg. But he's the only person I've ever seen drink this water. So I Google it and guess what? It's $45 per bottle. Apparently, it comes straight from the icebergs of Greenland. Dog, mine just comes straight from the tap. I want to be rich so bad. Nobody talks about how frustrating it is when you know someone is lying, but you can't say anything because of how you found out. Because the other day, I was hanging out with my friend and he gets up to go to the bathroom, but he leaves his phone on the table. And at first, I wasn't even looking at it. But then I hear a ding sound go off, and out of habit, I glance at his phone, but I still wasn't gonna read anything until I see that it lit up because he got a text from someone with the contact name Baby Girl. But as far as I knew, my friend was single, so I was itching to know who Baby Girl was. And all of a sudden, my hand starts levitating over towards his phone without me having any control over it. That phone was calling me like the Green Goblin mask, so I pick it up, and the text says, "Love you, have fun." So he comes back from the bathroom, and to see whether he would lie or not, I go, "Is it just me, or are you tired of being single?" And suddenly his voice gets really high as he goes, "Yeah, bro, I'm so tired of being single." So I just had to sit there without saying what I wanted to. And it wasn't until 3 weeks later that he finally told me he had a girlfriend. Nobody talks about the difference between being boy pretty versus girl pretty. Because back in high school, pretty much all the girls in my grade had a crush on the same dude. But this confused me because there were other guys at the school that were in way better shape, more conventionally handsome, yet they got way less attention than this guy. So it wasn't until I asked the girls what was so attractive about him that I started to understand it. Because when they were describing what they liked about him, they didn't say any physical features, well, except for his height. But besides that, they mostly talked about his energy. So I was like, what do you mean by that? And this one girl helped me understand it a lot when she was like, "Do you know the main character in the Ratatouille movie?" And I was like, "Yeah, the rat?" But then she was like, "No, the guy. That's the type of energy we're talking about." When she said this, I was like, oh, now I see why y'all like Pete Davidson so much. Looks like me pretending to be nonchalant and mysterious this whole time was all for nothing. Nobody talks about the difference between how your mom punishes you versus your dad. Because whenever I did something wrong as a child, my mom would start crying and be like, "If you keep misbehaving, you're gonna end up like that kid Johnny that lives down the street that went to juvie." And I'd be like, "Mom, Johnny hit an old lady with his bike. I just snuck some goldfish into my room." And then she would take my phone away. But with my dad, he wouldn't even discipline me at all. He would just be like, "Hey man, can you just listen to your mother? All right, cool, thanks." And that would be it, unless I did something really bad, which in that case, getting punished by my dad was so much worse than getting punished by my mom. Because there was nothing more scary growing up than when my dad was angry. I would go to sleep thinking I was gonna wake up the next morning with a finger missing or something. But I am glad to say, I still have all 10 though. This is your warning to never wake your mom up when she's sleeping. Because when I was younger, I had a really bad tummy ache one night and I didn't know what to do. So I went into my parents' room, tapped on my dad a couple times trying to wake him up. But of course he didn't because he's busy snoring at 500 decibels. So then I go over to my mom's side of the bed and my mom is a really light sleeper. So right when I tapped on her arm, she goes, and I start panicking like, "Oh my gosh, mom, are you okay?" She jumped up like she was just in a nightmare getting flashbacks from the war. But then once she sees me, she's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Why?" So I'm like, that's weird. But I kind of just brush it off because my stomach hurts so bad. But the next day, I asked her why she always jolts up like that right when I wake her up. And she goes, "What are you talking about?" She literally did not even know that's how she reacts when someone wakes her up. I guess she must just not be fully conscious yet when she does that. I had to stop waking her up in the middle of the night because it scared me so much. It was like winding up a jack in the box waiting for it to jump out at you. High school teachers are so much better at teaching than college professors because I'm in college right now and I have a history professor who does not know how to teach. Like when he's teaching the class, he'll tell us to take notes because we need them for the test, but then he'll refuse to put any slides or notes on the screen. He just reads them from his computer and hopes that we write them down. But the problem is he has a really thick accent that I can't really understand. So when he says something that's not very clear, we'll ask him to repeat it and he'll just be like, "No." So I started using an AI note taker called TurboLearn that listens to your professor and takes notes. It literally just listens to what your professor says and then makes notes for you using AI. But then one day, I have my phone on my desk and he gets mad at me for using a phone in class. Like, how are you gonna get mad at me for using technology to do your job? Like, the teachers in high school actually care about the students compared to college. Like, I remember in high school, I used to have a teacher that would give us free ice cream if we got an A on the test. Why can't all teachers be like this? Have you ever had a friend that will leave the group chat for attention? And they'll do it thinking everyone's gonna beg for them to come back, when in reality, No one cares. Like, I have a friend that will leave the group chat for any minor inconvenience he has, so he does it like once a week. But every time he does this, no one even says anything about it. He leaves, and then we just continue whatever conversation we were having before. But the most funny part is that after about 5 minutes, when he realizes that there's not gonna be anyone begging for him to come back, he'll text one of us separately and be like, hey bro, can you add me back? But I know he feels so embarrassed sending that text every time, because one time after he left, instead of texting us, he just created a whole new group chat hoping that we would use that instead, but no one did. They be acting like the world's gonna stop spinning when they leave. So if you're the person in your friend group that does this, trust me, it's not worth it. Why does asking your friends to hang out feel like begging for spare change? Because I'm pretty sure most of my friends just don't actually like me, since the only time we ever hang out is when I beg them to. But it's not just like a one-time beg. No, I have to ask for days until they get so tired of me doing it that they're just like, damn, fine, I'll hang out with you, just so I stop. And trust me, I would prefer to not do this, but if I stopped, we would never hang out again. And they'll always have an excuse for why they can't hang out, like, oh, I don't have any money. But they'll say this, and the next day, I'll turn on my PlayStation just to see that they bought 12 new skins in Fortnite that cost a combined $200. But I have a theory. I'm convinced they spend all their money on purpose just so they can tell me they don't have any when I ask to hang out. Do my friends actually like me? How do people date their friend's sibling? Like, when I'm looking at any of my friend's sisters, I feel like I'm looking right at my friend. They have way too many similarities. And if you think your friend doesn't look like their sibling, just look at them when they laugh. I guarantee you'll see the resemblance. So basically, if you kiss your friend's sibling, you're practically kissing your homie. Well, some people like that, but not me. But you are literally attracted to your friend if you date their sibling. And if you say that's not true, you're in denial, buddy. Nobody talks about how scary it is when you're at your friend's house and they tell their mom you're hungry. Like, great, now your mom hates me. Because when I was younger, I would hang out at my friend's house after school a lot, but he had an appetite smaller than a celebrity on Ozempic. So I didn't want to ask him for food at his own house. I wanted him to offer it. But he was never hungry, so what I did is give him subtle hints that I was hungry, hoping that this would make him offer me food. Like, we would see a Taco Bell commercial on the TV, and I would be like, dang, Taco Bell sounds really good right now, doesn't it? But he would just be like, nah, not really. But one time when I did this, instead of responding to me, he was just like, hey, yo, mom, Tyler's hungry. Can you make him something? Why would you say it like that? Now your mama just thinks I'm a big back who wants to empty all her cabinets. I mean, I am, but still. Gen Z in nursing homes is gonna be so scary because my friend's grandpa lives in one right now, and he told me that the last time he went to visit, there was two old people arguing, but the way they talked was so funny because it still sounded like they were in the 1950s. They were saying phrases like, you bet your bottom dollar. And then one lady trying to stop the argument was like, simmer down, boys. So this made me think about how ridiculous Gen Z people are gonna sound when we're in there. Because if we still talk like we do now, good luck to the nurses. Like, an argument between us in the nursing home would be like, Bert, I know you cheated during bingo. That's cap, I did not. You're lucky I don't go to town on you right now. Wait, pause. And when we eat, it'll be like, man, this oatmeal hits different. We're gonna be the first generation to have brain rot in nursing homes. There's gonna be no nurses left that wanna work. What would you do if someone ended your friendship over a joke? Because that's what happened to me today. So we were at dinner with a bunch of our other friends, and one of them got a new dog recently. So she was asking us for recommendations on what to name it, and everyone was giving names. And as a joke, I said, you should name it Diddy, so when it's misbehaving, you can say, you're a bad boy, Diddy. But no one heard me say this except for one person, and I knew he heard it because he was making eye contact with me. And I could tell by his reaction that he thought it was funny, but instead of telling me to say it again so everyone could hear it, he turns to the rest of the table and literally says, you should name it Diddy, so when it's misbehaving, you can say, you're a bad boy, Diddy. And the whole friend group just starts laughing hysterically. He literally repeated my joke word for word, but said it louder and then took credit for it. But this isn't the first time he's done this. When I saw him looking at me after I said that joke, I knew exactly what he was gonna do. You can't trust people like this. What would you do if a girl made her dog attack you? Because that's what happened to me today. So there's this girl in my apartment complex that I thought was super pretty, and I would always see her around. But I was too shy to ever talk to her until one day. She walked by my door with her dog at the exact same time I was leaving, so we were like 2 feet away from each other. And we made eye contact, so I had to say something. So I was like, oh, your dog is so cute. Can I pet it? And she let me, but as I'm petting it, I see that it's wearing a dog tag that has a phone number on it. So then I'm thinking, wait, this is probably her number. So I look at it for about 5 seconds, just pretending to pet the dog when in reality, I'm just trying to memorize the number. But she sneezes while I'm petting the dog, which frightens it. So it bit me. So then she apologizes like 100 times, and I'm like, it's okay, don't worry. And then I leave. So I'm thinking, yes, I have her number now. But immediately after that, I was like, wait, what am I possibly going to do with it? Send her a text and say I got her number from her dog's collar? Yeah, that definitely won't make me sound like Jeffrey Dahmer. Gen Z is the most unserious generation ever. Because my friend used to have cancer, so he was completely bald. But instead of wearing hats or beanies to cover up his hair, he did the exact opposite. Because we had this class together that was super boring. So once he went bald, the next day, he brought these mini plungers to school, but when he pulled them out, we were like, what are these for? Like, did a Smurf clog up a toilet or something? But then he told us he bought the plungers so we could try throwing them at his head during class. So we would do a competition to see who could get the most to stick. And this was his idea, because we were like, are you sure about this? But he was just smiling and was like, yeah, this is awesome. People in this generation don't even take it seriously when they get diagnosed with a chronic illness. I shouldn't even be surprised though, because this is the same guy who dressed up as Mr. Clean that same year during Halloween and put a bunch of baby oil on his head to make it more shiny. Sleeping over at a rich person's house is so crazy because one time my friend Colin invited me over for a sleepover, but I had never been to his house before. So when I arrived to the address he gave me, I knock on the door and a man in a fancy outfit answers, but I knew it wasn't his parents because I've seen them before. So this guy asks if I'm here to see my friend and I say yes. So he welcomes me in and tells me where Colin's at. And when I get to Colin, I ask who that guy at the front door was and he goes, oh, that's our butler. Dog, you have a butler? I thought that was just a thing in Batman. But then it gets more crazy because around midnight, he asks all of us if we want to go to the movie theater. So I was like, I mean, that sounds fun, but isn't the movies closed by now? And he goes, oh no, we have a movie theater in the house. So he takes us into the movie theater room and there's like 10 reclining chairs and like a 500-inch TV. The moment I saw this, I was on my best behavior the rest of the time because I was hoping his parents would just adopt me. If you have to poop at your friend's house, make sure they have a good toilet because I just met my friend's parents for the first time at their house, so they don't know me at all. But his family is Latin, so I walk into their house and see that they're making this big dinner. But if there's one thing to know about Latin food, it's that it can be super spicy. But anyways, when all the food was ready, I started eating and they fed me like a king. They kept telling me to eat more and more, so I did because I didn't want them to think that I wasn't enjoying it. But about 20 minutes after we finished eating, my stomach started to rumble and I realized I had to get to the bathroom ASAP. So I did, but like I said, I ate a lot. So after I was done on the toilet, I tried flushing it, but it got clogged. And I started to panic. Then I looked for a plunger, but I couldn't find one. So I flushed the toilet again. But that just made the water rise even higher until it almost spilt out the toilet. So eventually, I just had to tell the family what happened. And they all laughed. And then the father said, not everyone can take the heat. That man wasn't lying. A girl whose love language is physical touch is usually also a girl who hates being touched. Because I liked this girl one time, but she was never really interested in me, no matter how hard I tried. So I asked her friends what I could do to get her to like me. And they were like, well, she always talks about how her love language is physical touch. So I was like, awesome, I'll use that to make her like me. But this was a dumb thing to think because we sat across from each other in class. So what I would do is play footsie and tap her feet with mine. It sounds weird, it wasn't. But anyways, I would do this hoping that she would tap my feet back in like a flirtatious way, but no. She would always quickly pull her feet away when I tapped them until eventually she got fed up with it and was like, would you stop touching my feet? So I went to her friends and was like, what the heck? I thought you guys said her love language was physical touch. But then they humbled me so hard by saying, yeah, but only if it's from people that she likes. Well, that would have been useful to know earlier. Now everyone in that class probably thinks I'm a weird foot toucher. No one talks about how different cultures have such different expectations for their kids because one time I was taking a test and I got a 71% on it and I was pumped because that meant that I passed the test, but the girl next to me was crying. So I said, why are you crying? Did you do bad on the test? And she was like, yeah. So I said, what did you get? She got an 88%. She was crying over that. So I was like, that's a great score. Why are you crying? And she told me that her parents will probably smack her for not getting an A. I was like, damn, you're gonna get smacked for getting an 88%? My parents are probably gonna take me out for ice cream just because I passed the damn thing. So now that I think of it, I see why she's going to an Ivy League school right now and I went to community college. But is anyone else's parents like this? Why do rich people get so defensive when you mention that they're rich? Like, I go to school with this kid that everyone knows is really wealthy, and sometimes people will make jokes about it, and his response is always like, I'm not even that rich. Like, bro, what are you doing? Because if I was rich and someone tried to make fun of me for it, saying, oh, look, there's the rich kid, I'd be like, heck yeah, I'm rich. I'm super rich. I would be flexing on him. Trust me, there's a lot of things that I'm insecure about, but being rich would not be one of them. You can always tell when someone grew up with divorced parents because during my high school graduation, the person I was sitting next to acted super nervous the whole time. So I was like, are you nervous about graduating too? But she was like, oh no, I don't care about the graduation part. I'm nervous for what's coming after that. So I was like, I see. You don't know what you're gonna do with your life after high school yet, huh? But then she says, what? No, I'm going to Duke, I'm fine. I meant that I'm nervous for what's gonna happen tonight. So I ask her to explain more and she tells me that her whole family is coming to watch her graduate, but they're all going to dinner together after. So then it clicked what was going on and I was like, oh, are your parents divorced? But not only did she say yes, she also said that this was gonna be the first time they were all together since they signed the papers. So she was super nervous because she had no idea how it was gonna go. I low-key almost asked for an invite to that dinner. I wanted to see how it was gonna go down. My friend got hit by a car the other day and you may not think that's funny, but it is due to how he reacted. Because he was riding a bicycle going super fast, but when he rode across an intersection, a car that was turning right didn't see him because of his speed and accidentally hit him. But the part that makes it funny is he broke his wrist. So I asked how bad it hurt when it happened and he was like, honestly, I was in pain at first, but then I looked up and saw how many people were looking at me and I just got super embarrassed and left. So I was like, wait, you left after getting hit by a car? And he goes, yeah. So I was like, well, did you at least get the information of the person that hit you? And he goes, nah, I didn't want anyone to see me because of how cringe I probably looked getting hit. But the most funny part is that his bike didn't even work anymore, so he just picked it up and jogged away with it. He's the only person I know who will not react to getting hit by a car just so people think he's nonchalant. Nobody talks about how frustrating it is when you show someone a movie, but they don't pay attention. And then they'll ask questions during it, even though they wouldn't have to if they just watched it. Because the other day, my friend told me that he's never seen the movie Interstellar. And I was like, bro, that literally may be the best film of all time. You have to watch it. So I decided to show him it, and I'm super excited because it's such a good movie, I think he's gonna love it. But about 5 minutes into watching, I hear him laughing, and I'm like, this part of the movie ain't funny. So I look at him, and he's on his phone texting. So I'm like, bro, you're missing the movie. And he's like, oh yeah, my bad. Wait, who's this old lady talking right now? Maybe if you actually paid attention, you wouldn't have to ask these questions. So he puts his phone down and starts watching, but literally 1 minute later, he's back on it. Like, if you don't want to watch a movie that I'm showing you, just tell me. I'd much rather you do that than say you want to watch it, and then when I show it to you, you just completely ignore it. Does anyone else do romantic stuff with their friends on accident? Because the other day, me and my friend had this great idea to get a bunch of different snacks, meet at the park, then put them all in one bowl and eat them. So that's what we did. But as we're at the park eating, I look around and see 2 other people also eating together. But these people were clearly a couple, and then it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh. And then my friend said, what's up? Then I go, dog, are we having a picnic together right now? Then he paused, looked around for a second, and was like, oh my goodness, we are having a picnic. But you can't just randomly have a picnic with your one homie. So after we realized this, we just went straight to the car and ate the rest of the snacks there because it felt way too weird to do it outside anymore. But like, is it normal for homies to have picnics together, or is that off limits? Because it was low-key kind of peaceful. But at the same time, it felt like something you should only do with a person that you're in a relationship with. I need to get a girlfriend, man. If you get a call from a no-caller ID, always answer it. Because I got one the other day and I picked it up, but the person calling asked if my name was Raymond. So I said no, and they hung up right away. But the next day, I get another call, but when I pick it up, I recognize that it's the same voice from yesterday. But this time when they ask if it's Raymond speaking, I say yes, because I'm like, you know what? If they're gonna waste my time, I'm gonna waste theirs. So then they go, Raymond, would you be interested in selling your house? And I say, yeah, actually I would be. Then they ask what price I was thinking, and I just throw out a random number and say 500,000. But then they're like, we can work with that. And then they said they'll contact me again soon with more details. So if your name is Raymond and you live in Southern California, just know that you might be getting a for sale sign put in your front yard in the next couple of weeks. My bad. Does anyone else have a friend you can't talk to on speakerphone when you're around other people? Because I was in the car with my mom the other day and I get a call from my friend, but I was super scared to answer it because this guy says some weird things sometimes. And I was driving with my phone connected to the car, so my mom could hear anything that my friend was about to say. So I'm thinking, okay, I have to decline this. So I go to do it, but then my mom's like, no, you can answer it. It's okay. Then I'm like, no, it's fine. I'll just call him back later. Then she's like, Tyler, it's rude to not answer your friend's calls. So she makes me answer it, and literally all I do is say, hello? And my friend just starts moaning into the phone. It sounded like there was 2 whales mating inside my car. So I slammed the end call button immediately, and my mom didn't say anything, but she gave me that look like she was thinking, is this how all your phone calls go? And this was the moment where I started putting my phone on Do Not Disturb. Have you ever met someone who's completely different at school versus at home? Because there was a kid I went to school with named Barry, but Barry was very shy and antisocial. A lot of people at school didn't even know who he was because he never talked, and the only reason I did was because we sat next to each other in class. So I just figured this was how he always acted, until one day we got put together for a group project and I needed a way to contact him. So I looked up his name on social media and I found his profile, but it was a lot different from what I expected, to say the least. Because you know what he posted on there? He posted videos of him rapping. Outside of school, he was pursuing a full-blown rap career. But the best part was that his username was Lil Barry. So when I asked him at school who Lil Barry was, his face got super red because I don't think he wanted anyone to find out. But he should have been happy to show it off. He was low-key pretty good. If you see your teacher in public, do not talk to them. Because one time, I was at the grocery store and out of the corner of my eye, I see my history teacher. But he was one of the teachers I actually liked, so I was gonna go up to him and say hi. Until he made eye contact with me, because once he did that, he looked away super quick and started walking the other direction. So I was like, dang, I guess he just doesn't like me like I thought. But then it started to make more sense what really happened the next day at school. Because I walk into his class and he has all the lights off, and right as the bell rings, he looks super tired and tells the whole class that we're gonna be watching a movie today instead of doing any actual work. So this is where I started to connect the dots of why he actually ran away from me. Because when I saw him at the store, he had a lot of alcoholic beverages in his shopping cart. So he definitely went home that day and drank a bunch, which is why he was tired. But he probably just didn't want me to know that. You could have just told me that though, Teach. I ain't mad at you. If you have a Gen Z lawyer, you are not beating your case. Because I had jury duty the other week, and the person on trial was there for robbing a gas station without a weapon. So you wouldn't think they would get that big of a punishment, but I knew they were cooked right when their lawyer walked in. Because first of all, he had that fluffy, messy Gen Z haircut, which is fine, But not in court. The judge ain't taking you seriously with that haircut. But that wasn't even the bad part, because the whole time he was trying to talk during the trial, it was a mess. Like, he would be explaining why his client wasn't guilty, but then the lawyer going against him would interrupt him and say something. So eventually, the Gen Z one got fed up and he was like, are you gonna let me speak? But then there was another moment where he crashed out because the other lawyer said, Your Honor, if this man isn't punished for his crime, he will do it again. And the Gen Z lawyer just went, nuh-uh. So let's just say that man did not win his case. Nobody talks about how frustrating it is when your friend owes you money, yet they keep buying stuff. Like, me and my friend went out to eat one time, but he said he didn't get paid till next week. So he asked if I could pay for his meal, which came out to be $22. So when the day came where he got paid, I didn't even ask for my money back. I was just hoping he would give it to me on his own, but he didn't. So about 3 days later, we're hanging out and I ask him if he can pay me back. But he's like, sorry man, I don't have the money yet. Just give me a couple more days. So I'm like, no worries, dude, that's totally fine. Just let me know when you get the money. And I wasn't upset at all until I saw the story he posted the next day, because you know where he was at? The casino! But the funny thing was, in the picture he posted, you could see the machine he was using, and it said he put $100 in there. Where'd you get that money from? He ain't borrowing from me anymore, I can tell you that. Nobody talks about how sad it is when your favorite teacher yells at you. Because I only really liked one of my teachers throughout all of high school, and he was so cool that I would spend lunch with him every day. But one day during class, he spilled coffee on his shirt, and this put him in a really bad mood. So a couple minutes later, he's teaching the class, but the person next to me says something really funny, so I laugh. And normally, if I laughed while he was teaching, he would just ask what was so funny. And then when I told him, he would usually laugh too. But this time, he just screams, Tyler, if you want to keep interrupting this class, you can leave. And this almost made me cry because I thought we were homies. I was like, damn, you embarrassed me in front of all these ladies when I thought we were tight? But from this point on, it was never the same between us. I even had to stop eating lunch in his class because it felt so awkward now. It was literally like going through a breakup. Why do teachers have such weird bathroom passes? Like, they'll give you a sword from the Revolutionary War and tell you to take that to the bathroom. And I'm not even kidding, because in one of my classes, on the first day of school, I had to go to the bathroom. So I went up to the teacher and asked. But I was terrified after doing this because when I did it, she pulled out a baseball bat. So I'm thinking she's about to swing on me or something, and I'm like, okay, I get it. I won't ask to go again. But then she tried handing the bat to me and she was like, here, take this. So then I was like, for what? And she goes, this is the bathroom pass. Oh, okay, I got it. One question though. Why? You couldn't have just given me something smaller? How do you expect me to go number one while holding that thing? I only got 2 hands, girl. Also, isn't that considered like a weapon? You're giving me a weapon as a bathroom pass. Do you know how ridiculous I looked going to the bathroom while holding that? Let's just say it made the janitor's life a lot harder.